It's 11:08 p.m. on a Tuesday. He's 44, kids are asleep, wife's upstairs, he's at the kitchen table, phone in hand, a car payment notification he keeps dismissing, a home equity reminder he's been ignoring for 3 weeks. He opens LinkedIn, not to scroll, just one notification. It's a job posting, director of strategy, a company he's respected for years. The mission means something. The team looks sharp, and the salary is 15% less than what he makes now. He doesn't swipe past it. He doesn't apply. He doesn't close it. He just stares at it for a long time. Then he closes his phone, sets it face down on the table, sits in the dark. That man is not in financial trouble. Not technically. He has a house, a job, a retirement account he doesn't look at often enough. But something is wrong, and it is not a money problem. It is a psychological problem, and it started years ago, quietly, while his life was getting full. This channel exists for one reason, because financial stress is never really about money. It's about the decisions we made when our brain was under pressure, and the psychological forces we never knew were steering us. Today, I'm going to show you 3 of those forces and exactly why your 40s is the decade they hit hardest. Not because of what you spend, but because of who you become while spending it. Stay with this. Here's what every other financial video gets wrong about your 40s. They tell you it's about compound interest, your 401k balance, whether you bought the house at the right time. They frame it as math, but your 40s don't determine how rich you'll be. They determine how free your mind will be at 55, at 65, at 70. That distinction is everything, because freedom at 70 is not a number in a bank account. It's a specific cognitive experience, the ability to wake up in the morning without your first thought being a calculation, the ability to take a career risk without it threatening your entire structure, the ability to genuinely feel like you have options. That kind of freedom gets manufactured in your 40s, or it doesn't. And the reason most people lose it, quietly, without ever noticing, isn't because they made dramatic mistakes. It's because they made completely normal, completely reasonable-seeming decisions, while 3 specific psychological forces were running underneath everything. Let's name those forces. Force 1. Peak identity pressure. By your early 40s, the world has started to read you. Your house tells people something. Your car tells people something. The neighborhood your kids go to school in, the vacation photos, the kitchen renovation. Every single one is a data point your social circle is unconsciously processing and scoring. Psychologists call this identity protective cognition, the unconscious drive to make decisions that protect not just your finances, but your sense of self. And here's what makes the 40s different from every other decade. In your 20s, you're becoming someone. In your 30s, you're building something. But in your 40s, you've arrived. Or you're supposed to have. And the psychological pressure of that expectation quietly hijacks financial reasoning in ways that feel completely rational from the inside. Force 2. Decision fatigue at its lifetime peak. Roy Baumeister's landmark research on ego depletion showed something that should change how you think about every evening financial decision you've ever made. The quality of your choices degrades measurably with every decision already made that day. Your 40s is the decade where your daily decision load is at its statistical maximum. Career, kids, aging parents, marriage, health, mortgage, it never stops. Which means that when the consequential financial decisions arrive, and they arrive constantly in your 40s, your prefrontal cortex is running on reserve. You're making your most permanent financial choices with the least mental bandwidth you've had since you were a sleep-deprived new parent. And here's the part that nobody tells you. Decision fatigue doesn't feel like confusion. It feels like clarity. The depleted brain reaches for the familiar, the default, the choice that requires the least reevaluation of who you already are. Force 3. The compounding illusion. People in their early 40s believe on some functional level that they still have plenty of time.
This is not stupidity. It's a documented feature of human cognition. We are systematically bad at feeling the emotional nearness of a decade from now. We know it intellectually, we don't feel it. And that gap between knowing and feeling is where the compounding illusion lives, where every "I'll be more intentional about this next year" feels completely reasonable, right up until the moment it doesn't. The most expensive thing your 40s will ever cost you is the illusion that you still have plenty of time. Let's talk about the house. not as a financial instrument, as a psychological one. The average American couple in their early 40s who upgrades to a home costing $200,000 more than they needed, not wanted, needed, doesn't lose $200,000. They lose $1.1 million. That's the compounded retirement value of that difference at 7% average annual return over 25 years, before property taxes, before higher insurance, before the maintenance on 3 rooms nobody sits in. But here's what the math doesn't capture. That upgrade didn't just cost money, it created something behavioral economists call lifestyle lock-in. It set a floor, a minimum monthly overhead beneath which your life becomes unrecognizable to the people around you and to yourself. And once that floor is set, something changes in your brain. Every career risk gets filtered through it. Every passion project conversation gets filtered through it. That 44-year-old staring at the LinkedIn listing is not asking, is this the right move? He's running one specific calculation. Can my life survive a 15% pay cut? The answer is no. Not because he's bad with money, but because the house decided that answer for him 3 years ago on a sunny Saturday when the realtor said, "You deserve this." Lifestyle lock-in is not just a financial concept. It is a cognitive cage, and it gets more invisible over time, not more obvious. Your home didn't just determine your address, it determined your options. In 1899, economist Thorsten Veblen introduced the concept of conspicuous consumption, the idea that a significant portion of human spending is not about utility, it's about display, about communicating to your social group that you have reached a certain station. Veblen was describing the Gilded Age. He was also describing a 2026 dealership in suburban America. The average new car payment in the U.S. right now, $767 per month. That number is not primarily a transportation expense for most people. It is a Veblen good, dressed as a practical decision. But here's what behavioral psychology tells us about this specific dynamic, the part no finance calculator will show you. When you structure your monthly overhead around payments you cannot comfortably drop, you become someone who cannot afford to say no. You cannot say no to the overtime, cannot say no to the client you dislike, cannot say no to the promotion that comes with a culture you don't believe in. Every $767 payment is a monthly renewal of a contract with a version of yourself, a version that needs to appear a certain way. And your future self, the one who wanted to pivot, to breathe, to stop grinding so hard, is quietly funding that appearance every single month. The real cost of the car is not the interest rate, it's the no you couldn't say next Thursday. Conspicuous consumption doesn't just drain your bank account, it writes a story about who you are, and eventually, you can't afford to be anyone else. In 2013, Harvard economist Sendil Mullainathan and Princeton psychologist Eldar Shafir published research that should be mandatory reading for anyone in their 40s. Their finding, when people experience scarcity, not just financial scarcity, but any form of cognitive not enough, including time pressure and margin anxiety, a predictable psychological event occurs. They called it tunneling. The mind narrows its focus to the immediate problem. Long-term planning, creative problem-solving, abstract reasoning, these become neurologically harder, not metaphorically, measurably. Here's why this is specifically terrifying in your 40s. You don't have to be broke for this to happen. You just have to have no margin. If every month is fully allocated, mortgage, car, kids, the maintenance cost of appearing successful, your brain is chronically in scarcity mode. And a brain in scarcity mode cannot think long-term, cannot properly evaluate risk, cannot access the strategic thinking that retirement planning requires. You're not failing to plan because you lack discipline. You're failing to plan because your financial structure has removed the cognitive oxygen required for planning. This is not a motivation problem. This is neuroscience. There's one more force. You've heard of the sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to continue investing in something because of what you've already put in, not because of what it will return.
Here's how it sounds at kitchen tables across America in the exact words people use. We bought this house. We can't downsize now. What would people think? We've been living this way for 10 years. We can't just change now. I spent 20 years building to this salary. I can't take a step back. Every one of those sentences is a sunk cost argument, and every one of them is keeping someone in a structure their future self desperately wants to leave. Research by Hal Arkus and Catherine Blummer showed that humans are disproportionately attached to past investments, more than the rational math justifies, and that attachment grows stronger the more your identity is tied to the investment. When your house is part of who you are, you can't just sell the house. You'd have to sell part of yourself. And that's a transaction most people simply will not make. The sunk cost fallacy doesn't just keep you in bad investments, it keeps you in the version of yourself you've already outgrown. Same city, same age, same household income, $148,000. Meet Daniel and Marcus. Daniel's house, $820,000. 2 car payments, $1,400 a month. Monthly fixed overhead, $7,200. Every month ends close. There is no slack. When the market dropped last spring, Daniel moved a large portion of his portfolio to cash. He told his wife it was being careful, but it wasn't carefulness. It was a brain in tunneling mode, unable to hold a 20-year perspective because every neural resource was managing a monthly deficit. Marcus's house, $560,000. 1 used car. Monthly fixed overhead, $4,800. At the end of most months, he has $2,400 that isn't promised to anything. When the market dropped, Marcus didn't check his account for a week. His brain had the room to hold the long view. He didn't panic because he didn't have to. But here's the part that doesn't appear on any financial statement. 6 months ago, Marcus was offered a lateral role, same salary range, more meaningful work, a team he actually respected. He took it. Daniel was offered something similar. The pay difference was $11,000 annually. He said no. His house decided. These two men don't have different bank accounts. They have different daily experiences of their own minds. One brain sees options, one brain manages obligations, and that difference was built in their 40s, one completely reasonable decision at a time. Financial margin is not just money in the bank, it is cognitive space, the literal mental room to see options your brain couldn't access before. None of this is fixed. The psychology can shift, but you have to start with the right frame. These are not financial tips, these are cognitive rewrites. Shift 1. Rebuild your identity around what you can do, not what you own. Identity tied to assets is fragile. It requires constant maintenance. Identity tied to capability, the ability to pivot, to say yes to something unexpected, to walk away from what no longer fits, that is compounding. Start asking, what does my financial structure allow me to do, not what does it say about me? Shift 2. Pre-commit the raise. Before your next income increase, decide where it goes before it arrives. Behavioral economists call this pre-commitment. The moment new money hits your checking account, it's already been claimed by identity-driven expenses waiting in line. Your future self needs that raise more than your current lifestyle does. Decide before the money arrives. Shift 3. Name your number. Not a retirement savings target, something more immediate and more psychologically powerful. The exact monthly overhead at which your brain can breathe. Most people in their 40s have never explicitly calculated this. Calculate it. The gap between that number and your current overhead is the work. Shift 4. The 10-year self-test. Before any major financial commitment, the house upgrade, the car, the school tuition, ask one question. Would your 54-year-old self co-sign this decision? Not your 44-year-old self who wants relief from the current pressure. Your 54-year-old self who will still be making this payment, who will either have cognitive margin or won't. The goal is not to live like a monk. The goal is to stop letting your present identity make permanent decisions for your future freedom. 2 versions of you at 70. The first one wakes up, no calculation waiting, no tally of what's owed, what's due, what's possible. Just coffee, morning, a sense that the day is actually yours. They made choices in their 40s that looked strange to neighbors at the time. A smaller house, a car that was good enough, a career move that paid less for 3 years and then led somewhere real. Nothing dramatic, just margin maintained deliberately over a decade. The second version wakes up too, and the arithmetic starts immediately. Not because they failed, not because they earned less, but because every decision in their 40s was made to protect a version of themselves that no longer exists. The house they can't leave, the lifestyle no longer supported by the career that ended, the retirement account that almost got there. Both people made completely normal choices. One of them understood what was happening in their own mind. Your 40s don't decide your wealth. They decide which version of you shows up at 70. If this reframed something for you, share it, not as a warning, as a conversation starter with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper on the psychology beneath financial decisions, the neuroscience, the identity traps, the behavioral research that actually explains why smart people stay stuck, subscribe. This channel exists exactly for that. Leave a comment. What decision, yours or someone you watched make it, do you think actually changed the outcome? I read every one. See you in the next one.